Thank you.
Budget cuts for the state are underway, and culture, tourism, and regional arts face possible huge deficits. Arts councils all over the state are saying the arts are in danger, and legislators realize the state reduction is making the economic climate more difficult. But as Governor Mitch Daniels proposed budget plans to cut the arts funding by 50% or $2 million per year for the next 2 years. What does that mean for the Hoosier State? Tonight we find out more as we go in focus on the arts. Hi, I'm Ann Shea, and we welcome our WTIU viewers and WFIU listeners to the show. And tonight we also welcome panelists from around the state to discuss various topics on the arts. We love to hear from you. You can phone in your questions at 1-800-987-9848 or email us at infocus@indiana.edu. Well, the latest Arts and Economic Prosperity Report shows nonprofit arts and culture account for almost $470 million in the city of Indianapolis. And arts and culture support more than 15,000 jobs and generate almost $52 million in local and state government revenue. Here's a preview.
Across the country, state governments threaten to take away arts programs. According to an article, some states slashed arts budgets by more than half, and lawmakers considered eliminating their arts agencies altogether. Elected officials find it easiest to make cuts to the arts when there is limited research that exhibits economic benefits.
There's a new dimension, and that's the economic dimension. We live in a world of infinitely portable capital and businesses in which the terms of competition, which of course include keeping costs down, taxes down, regulation reasonable, infrastructure built, all these things we do, but also we must have the most livable communities. Places, and Bloomington's a great example, that people will choose because of the amenities that make them attractive places to live, and the arts are very high in that respect.
According to an Arts and Economic Prosperity Report conducted by the city of Indianapolis, the arts industry generates nearly $30 billion in revenue to local, state, and federal governments each year. The report confirms that collectively the three levels of government spend less than $4 billion annually. In the Hoosier State, if it's a choice between the arts and infrastructure, the arts tend to lose.
In difficult times, direct subsidy of the arts by people who may be very low income, I have to tell you honestly, is not at the top of my list.
Tonight, the arts are in focus.
And helping me tonight is WFIU's news director, Stan Jastrzebski, and he's joining us from the WFIU radio booth. Stan, give us a brief preview of who you'll be talking with tonight.
And later on in the program, we'll talk live here in the studio with Assistant Economic Development Director for the Arts for Bloomington, Maya Michelson. And I'll have a phone conversation with Christopher O'Reilly, who's the host of National Public Radio's From the Top. That's coming up, but right now, back to you.
Looking forward to it. Thanks a lot, Stan. Well, our first topic deals with the arts funding crisis, along with various program and educational funding cuts. Joining me tonight is Warren Baumgart Jr., Executive Director of the Columbus Area Arts Council, Executive Director of the Indiana Arts Commission, Louis Rickey, and Sally Gaskell of the Indiana Coalition for the Arts, who we need to say is also a member of WTIU's Community Advisory Board. Thank you all for being here. Well, first off, some headlines from across the state. From a January edition of the Evansville Courier and Press, talking about how the Indiana Arts Commission faces a 50% budget reduction or more under Governor Daniels' plan. Another headline stating that the 50% cut would put Indiana in 48th place out of 50 when it comes to funding the arts. And finally, from Indy.com, the Capital Improvement Board's cutting of $6 million from its budget means a reduction to cultural tourism, like the Indiana Black Expo in Indianapolis. When you all hear headlines like that and you hear the story we had before that, let's start off with you, Warren, from a local level, from Columbus. What does that say to you?
It's pretty shocking for us. We're struggling and rallying around all the arts organizations in Columbus, trying to figure out how we're going to get through this time. The economics of the community is struggling with the rest of the country is with the economics of manufacturing and some of the impact on Cummins diesel engine company in Columbus. So we have to look at how can we survive, how can we make up for any kind of cuts in budgets, and what kind of impact that's going to have on programming for us. I mean, we've already lost a major summer concert that the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra would come into town. It's for years and done a Pops Festival. The sponsor had to cancel it this year, and that was a free event for local people to see classical music performed live that they probably wouldn't see any other way. Yeah. And it's a big loss for us.
Well, we have an email question, and Louis, why don't you take this one if you can. The arts obviously have an impact on local economies. At the state level, what is the vision for arts and arts involvement across the state, and how does the state plan to support that vision?
Well, you know, the Indiana Arts Commission is the fulcrum point for state support here, we're facing definitely tough economic times, and our leadership is faced with alternatives, and I think that's the reality of the situation. At the same time, I think the other elements that support arts typically are also in danger of going down. I mean, you look at the formula for funding the arts in America, it is a partnership of public monies and of private monies. And of course, the sources of private monies are corporations and foundations and individuals. Well, certainly the foundation world, most foundations will tell you that they're going to be giving out a lot less money because obviously their value has gone down precipitously with the market. For-profit corporations are laying off workers, and in times like that, it becomes more difficult to justify charitable giving. And individuals, obviously, individual wealth has dropped as well in the country. So you're having an amassing of a number of things that pose a threat to the traditional funding mechanism for the arts on the state and in our nation. If you're asking me for what the new formula is, I think that's the question that is facing everyone, and that we're trying to look at as a commission, but I think the nation is trying to look at not only in the arts, but in a lot of other important pieces of civic and community life.
Moving on that, Sally, I mean, obviously the governor said, you know, when push comes to shove, basically, if people are going to be losing their jobs, we have to spend money in different places for infrastructure. The arts might be the losing piece of the puzzle. What do you say to that?
What we say at the Indiana Coalition for the Arts is that it's not an either-or situation. You really can't compare the arts to basic public services that government is meant to provide. But we think that government also should be supporting, in a reasonable way, arts and cultural development for the reasons that have already been articulated. We know that the arts are important to the economy in Indianapolis, in Bloomington, in Columbus, and throughout the state. We know that they're important for education and, of course, for quality of life. The opportunity to go and hear live classical music is something that is irreplaceable. So I think that one of the interesting things that's perhaps going to be going on now is that because the economy is looking so bad and people are hearkening back to what happened during the Great Depression, perhaps we can talk about how the arts were a focus then and how the arts were valued in terms of job creation. Individual artists were put to work creating art, and that was valued by the government and by the people at large.
And we have that today, that art that came out of that period, we are still enjoying today.
Absolutely.
There's been a long history of the government investing in the arts, and it has served us even today.
You're talking also about tourism, you know, with the budget cuts and that kind of thing. They're talking about art tourism being cut across the board in the state of Indiana. That impacts arts tourism as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and if you look nationally, you'll see that I think tourism is one of our largest exports in the United States. It actually is a larger export than the automotive industry and the agricultural industry, believe it or not, in the United States. And cultural tourists spend much more money than normal tourists do. So the contribution of the arts to that industry alone is very substantial.
Okay, we're